Hello and welcome to Season 2 of Teacher Talk, the podcast for teachers who are lifers but still want to have a life. I'm Jared, and as always, I'm joined by my partner, Johanna. Hey, Johanna.
Hi, Jared.
What are we going to talk about today?
Getting yelled at.
Getting yelled at by who?
Parents.
Are they the only people who yell at you?
I suppose randomly you could get a kid that yells at you, but at least for me, that feels different.
That's not quite the same thing?
No.
Why?
For me personally, I think it's because part of my job is to help manage student emotions. And if a kid starts yelling at you, I'm trying to think of a time that's happened. Like a lot of times it's not about you. You're trying to problem solve. Like, why is the student that upset? How can I help mitigate the damage or the wrong or whatever? You know, you're in the position to solve the problem, I suppose, in a way that's different with parents.
I mean, I think we might discover that it doesn't need to be different.
Okay.
But
maybe, hopefully. I mean, you have a lot more control. When a kid yells at you, like, the end of the day, you're still in charge. So, and with parents, you don't have that level of control.
Okay.
Also with kids, right? It's like in person. And with parents, it's not necessarily in person. And so that can influence things as well.
All right. So where do you start?
I don't know. I'm actually bringing up this topic to get your advice because, as we mentioned a couple of podcasts ago, you have, in your plethora of experience, like working at a call center, and I am
You
sure...
can't say plethora or I'll just get distracted thinking of the Three Amigos.
Oh.
It's a no-no word.
It is?
I mean, it's a fine word. It just makes me think of the Three Amigos, and now I'm thinking of a plethora.
But yeah, this is one that I'm not good at. It's something that doesn't happen very often. And when it does, it like throws me for a loop. So I do have some tricks as far as like, if you've never experienced it, just knowing what to do that have helped me in the past. But I'm curious about what advice you might have for us also. So do you want me to start or do you want me to ask you questions?
Yeah, describe what do you get yelled at about?
Okay, so I really can only think of 3 times. So maybe that's saying something. I'm sure there's more, but I can only think of 3. The first one was when I was a brand new baby teacher and a parent was just very angry. Like they thought I wasn't being fair to their kid. And so they kept getting more and more heated. And so pretty much right away, I said, it sounds like we need to have this conversation in person and with my principal there. And that turned out to be one of the best quick decisions I've ever made.
Yeah, that probably helps.
Oh my goodness, that helped a lot. Like, my principal was awesome with the situation. Just by having the principal there, it changed the tone of the conversation. So there was a lot more respect involved. And then at the end of the day, the parent was angry because I was assigning like written work and the kid didn't do a very good job on the written work. And I was offering the kid the ability to edit the work and turn it back in for full credit. And the parent was angry because I didn't teach English. And so how dare I be asking their kid to write? And my principal, had the authority to say, like, actually, this is exactly what I would be wanting my teachers to do. And it shut the parent down because the parent wasn't going to get their way. But the parent did want to nitpick the entire grading system, and he got to be the bad guy, and that was really helpful.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because why would you read in a not reading class?
Yes. And it was interesting because as a parent, like I reflect on that, and I'm like, there wasn't I would have foreseen that conversation being more associated with like not following an IEP or something like that. But this was not one of those students. It was just like, didn't want the student to have to do additional work.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. The second time that I got yelled at was because I used to be a coach, and my world was chaos. I mean, my world was, we were opening a brand new school, so I was moving schools. It was the start of the school year, and they didn't let us get into the school until, I don't know, just before school started. I was also pregnant with child number 2, and then I was working like 80 hours a week because start of the school year and start of the season.
You didn't have a podcast yet to tell you not to do that?
I didn't have a podcast yet to tell me not to do that, no. But I was working literally, Saturdays, Sundays, and then, of course, all the days in between. And so...
In between Saturday and Sunday?
Yes.
There's no days in between those.
I know. So anyway, on this one, somehow...
Ooh, 2-day week.
I screwed something up. And no one ever brought it to my attention. And by the time it was brought to my attention, it was done in just yelling manner. And I had already been thinking about stepping down from coaching, and that conversation just made me go, like, I'm not getting paid for this. Like, this is ridiculous. I quit.
You were.
I was, like, I don't know, 75 cents an hour or something.
Oh. That's not a lot of money to get yelled at.
No. So it was like a blessing in disguise. Like, I needed a way out. And man, was that a way. I was like, I'm done. I'm done.
So we have two strategies developed. One is to formalize the communication and involve others before it escalates.
Yes.
The other is to just quit. So strategy 1, formalize. Strategy 2, quit.
Yes, it's funny because that's what I'm considering.
All right, so what else you got?
Okay, I have one where the parent was really frustrated because of the consequences of my discipline plan.
So I'm surprised that it's only come up once. It seems like something that's ripe to fight about.
There must have been other times, but I can't think of them. Like, not like getting yelled at. I don't know. When I call a parent over like discipline, I have really good records, so I can say like on this date, da-da-da happened. I don't know. Maybe I just got awesome parents to deal with. Like, it's always a conversation. Maybe it's the way that I phrase things. Like, I try to be the first to always reach out. And so I think that can help, like getting to the parents before the kid gets to the parents.
Being proactive and like framing the account of what happened.
Yes.
So that they're not just getting Timmy's selfishly warped version of it first.
Well, and that the student isn't, like, unless they're really little, I try and keep the student a part of the conversation.
A part or a part?
Like, in the conversation.
In the conversation.
Like, if they're secondary, the student is the one that starts the conversation.
The kid stays in the picture?
Yes.
Okay. Elementary,
just because of the structure of my day, I'm not able to do that to that extent. But still, I don't know. Yeah, yes. But in this case, this parent was very angry.
So say that doesn't work and they call and they're already mad.
Yes.
So what do you do?
I notify my principal as soon as I can. And I get off the phone as soon as I can. Or if I'm alone with a parent, like...
I mean, it sounds like your first one kind of is... If they're already mad because they have different expectations than you... I mean, there's two things to fight about, right?
Okay.
Is a disagreement over the way things are.
Yes.
Or a disagreement over the way things ought to be.
Yes.
Hopefully, most of the time you can diffuse things by explaining that really we don't disagree on the way things ought to be. We disagree on what happened. And so you can say, well, here's what happened.
No, I would say this is a disagreement with, like, my behavior expectations.
So it's very difficult.
And me being, from the perspective of the parent, like me being consistent with the behavior expectations.
Yeah, so it's very, very difficult in a one-on-one conversation without, especially when someone's already hot, to reach a consensus on what the expectations ought to be, right?
Yeah.
You almost need a mediator to resolve that. The only other thing you have is the social pressure of explaining is like, look, these are the same rules I apply to every other student, and you're the only complaint that I've had. And then you know, there's a chance that they're like, well, okay, if I believe that that's true, that it's applied to everyone else, then I don't want to be the one that's the problem. There's a chance that might work, but once they're already mad, you need someone who's not involved to help someone see, oh no, that's not what the expectations are.
Well, I think that it's more than that. Like, would you call up a teacher and yell at them?
I don't know, maybe.
I don't think so.
If I thought it would help me get my way.
You would not call up a teacher and yell at them.
Yeah, but I don't care about my kids very much.
You do. No, I just mean, like, that's not your personality. Like, teachers are dealing with all sorts of people. And the type of person that will yell at you on the phone, it's hard. It's hard. It's tricky.
There's two types of people that will do that.
Okay.
And it's, there's childish is kind of the wrong word, but there are people who think, well, this isn't fair to me. So something happened that's unfair to me. And the reason I think of it as childish is because the kids do it all the time, but adults do it too. It's monkeys and grapes and cucumbers fundamentally.
We've talked about that before.
It's like, it feels like an injustice to someone, and even adults can fall into being really outraged about something that feels like an injustice in the same way that kids will act if their sibling gets something that they don't.
Okay, so because you have all this call center experience, like, how do you tell us your tricks, Jared?
The call center is a little bit different in that no one wants to talk to the call center for the most part. It's at best a use of their time that they don't want. So
you didn't get calls where people were angry?
Yeah, but for the most time, there are some people that just want to take advantage of anything they can take advantage. That's the other type of people that will yell at people because it's effective at getting their way.
Oh. See, it's funny. My brain is like, you're better at this than I am, because I don't even... I'm so used to dealing with kids. It's funny. I'm not good with adults.
We have, as people, we have strong social mores against getting upset without cause. Like, we're pretty tolerant as a society of someone who really is aggrieved getting really upset about it, and then people will see that they had cause to be upset and understand. But if you blow your top for no good reason, people really look down on that. But like a lot of mores that evolved for a group of 50 humans on the savannah, the power breaks down once you decide to ignore it, and people are very capable at yelling at service people or demanding to speak to a supervisor until they get more than they're entitled to, more than is fair for them, just because it's effective.
Yeah. Okay. So walk me through this then, Jared. Like, how do I okay, so you talked about there's two kinds of people.
In the call center, I'd say like 90% of the time, someone that was upset about something was upset for a good reason.
Okay.
And they needed the thing that they were asking for fixed or granted.
Okay, well, let's talk about that, because like I'm not perfect. Like I'm sure next week, I don't know, tomorrow I could do something that like I shouldn't have done, and let parents yelling at me because I didn't do something right. Now what do I do, Jared? And I don't mean like they're having a conversation with you and they're angry in that conversation. I mean like they are talking down to you.
Yeah. My like life pro tip generally is that free will is probably an illusion, but definitely it's not real for everyone else. You might have free will, but no one else does. Right?
Okay. This is going okay. I will follow this train of thought with you.
If you just act, whether you believe it or not, and we could have a different podcast on whether you should believe it or not. If you just assume that you're the only person in the universe with free will,
okay,
everything becomes a lot easier.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I have free will and no one else does.
Yeah, they're just reacting to the stimuli that has come before them.
Okay.
Very much the same way that you treat kids anyway, right? The part of why you don't mind getting yelled at by the kid, but you do by the parent, is because you don't actually believe that the kid has full agency over their emotions and their actions. Okay. And so it doesn't feel personal or hurtful. Yes. They're just acting out because of the stimuli that have come across. We're very complicated people. There's a bunch of different things going into it. But the sum total of their recent experiences combined with their entire life of experience has created a situation right now in which they're angry and can't control themselves. And
I think they can control themselves. They're choosing to control themselves by yelling.
The kid?
No, the parent.
Yeah, but once you understand that there's not a meaningful difference between the kid and the parent, except that it's the threshold for adult brains losing it is higher.
Okay.
Then you'll understand that there's no real reason to take it personally that someone's upset with you.
Okay.
For the same exact reason that you don't take it personally when a kid does it, there's not a meaningful reason why it's different when an adult does it.
So when an adult yells at you, you shouldn't take it personally.
Nothing that anyone else ever does is rational to take personally.
Okay.
They are just, think of them as people in a simulation, and you're the only real person in the matrix.
Okay.
They are just programs.
This seems a little dehumanizing, but okay.
I mean,
no, I'm with you.
It doesn't mean that you should murder them or manipulate.
Yeah, this is a little Westworld, but I won't go down that. Yeah, okay. So we're supposed to realize that this was based on their life experiences. This was the output that happened. They didn't have a choice over doing it. This was just how it was.
It's not rational to do. A big part of the problem why it bothers you so much to get yelled at is that you take it personally.
Okay.
So this person's choosing to yell at me. Why? What did I do? All of this thought process is irrational.
Okay, so I'm not going to take it personally. Now what am I going to do?
You're going to treat it like it was a kid yelling at you and think, what's the best way to improve this situation?
Remove myself.
Yeah, okay. I mean, Probably from what you described so far, your first answer is probably the right one. You have a disagreement on what the expectations should be a mediator would really help with that, both to calm the conversation and to help align everyone's expectations with reality.
Okay, so we need to get a mediator involved. And so does it matter then really whether you have fault or whether you don't have fault? You should just always get someone else involved and don't take it personally because they
should never take it personally.
Okay.
I mean, there's no fault. It's a disagreement on the expectations.
Well,
right?
But if you've done something wrong as a teacher and they're yelling at you and they have just cause, not to yell at you,
well, then
but
you
like
don't,
you
if
did do something wrong.
If you did something wrong, then you don't necessarily disagree on anything, right?
Yeah, but they are yelling at you as a form of punishment.
So?
I don't know.
Say, okay.
So should parents get to yell at the teacher? Like, that doesn't seem fair.
I mean, they shouldn't, but what are you going to do about it?
I don't know. What did you do about it when people yelled at you?
Another thing, if there is something wrong, is you talk about how you agree on what you want, right? Like, we want the same thing. If you're a customer calling into a call center, I want you to get what you want. It's the easiest way to get you to stop yelling at me. So, like, if there's any, like, let me see, if there's any way to just give you what you want,
okay,
then that's what I want too. I have no incentive except to...
yeah, but I got to deal with them again if I give them what they want because they yelled at me. They're just going to call and yell at me again.
A pattern of behavior is a different thing, right?
Okay.
I'm assuming this is a one-time...
Okay, so I could, when they are yelling at you, I could just say, like, let me look into this further. Let me investigate further and get back to you.
Yeah, that's always a good play.
Yeah.
Because
like
you help
that.
to establish trust by actually getting back to them promptly, right?
Yes.
Because they're going to think, oh, no, they're blowing me off. But it's a good, in all likelihood, they'll be less angry the second time you talk to them, and they'll be happy that you were accountable to what you promised.
Yes, and therefore, if you feel like I still think it's a good play for teachers to get there. You want to be the first to get to the principal, and if they've yelled at you, they're probably picking up the phone and calling the office immediately after. So.
But going back to saying, if you did something wrong, I'm not sure what you would do that's wrong.
Well, not me personally, but like, I'm dealing with 120 students every day. To assume that a teacher is going to be perfect all of the time is ridiculous. Like, of course we're going to make mistakes or make the wrong call or do something that could have been done better a different way. So, I don't know. I think it's worth thinking about, like, whether the teacher was at fault.
Do you have an example?
Of where I was at fault and got yelled at?
Or even like a theoretical example of someone being at fault?
Yeah. So, the second incident, like, I don't know what happened. I missed an email. I'm not sure how I missed it. Well, I know how I missed it. I wasn't sleeping and working 80 hours a week and I had too much on my plate, but I missed it. And it was never brought to my attention that I missed it. And so decisions were made based off of the assumption that I never got this communication from a student, which I did. And to this day, I still don't know how.
All right. So, I mean, they're mad then because the consequence of your mistake was unfair to them, right? They did everything right. And they had a bad outcome despite that because of your mistake.
Yes.
So there's not a lot to disagree with there. Yes,
like I was
I can acknowledge
sorry.
I can acknowledge, yes, this was my fault. I can say I cannot use my what's the thing in Harry Potter 3 that they throw away even though it would solve all of their future problems?
Oh, the time
turner.
Time turner or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, they probably should have kept that. You can't be like Cher. Well, you can be like Cher because Cher wishes she could turn back time, but she can't.
Yeah.
She just expresses the desire that she could. You can't turn back time. So
Yeah.
there might be consequences that you can only be sorry for and that you can't actually fix, but you can offer, to the extent that I can honorably do so, I want to make this better for you. What can I do to make it better?
Yeah, they were yelling at me. There was letting them yell at me.
Okay. Let's hear it. It was my mistake.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's get it out.
yeah. Why they didn't bring it to my attention immediately, I don't know. But like telling me a couple of months later doesn't let me change anything. Like, I don't know. That's why I quit. I was like, forget it. Like, I don't know. I wanted forgiveness. I wanted someone to be thankful that I was essentially volunteering my time when I didn't have a lot to give.
Yeah,
and then to be treated like that. Like, I'm human. And you are treating me like this when I have given this gift of time that I don't have to you. And then this is the treatment. I did take it. I do take it personally.
You do take it personally, but there's
do,
no
but you're
need
gonna
to.
Say not to.
Like I've dealt, because of mistakes, I've dealt with people that were arrested, and you can't undo that.
Wow. Gosh, that makes mine look piddly.
I mean,
but you did, yeah. Okay.
So what do? You can't do it. You can fix everything you can, and you can listen to someone be pretty upset.
Yeah.
About the consequences of a mistake. So but there it's probably easier for me not to take personally, because it was almost always never my mistake. It was my unit's mistake that I could take collective responsibility, but it was easier probably not to take personally. But there's no advantage in taking things like that personally. They're upset because from their perspective, they got a cucumber when they should have gotten a grape. And even if it's directly your fault, them being upset is not, you're buying into, this. I mean, it's the same social mores. Like, you're supposed to feel guilty in a way that you don't like, because it helps correct your behavior in future circumstances, but it's not actually healthy for you in this circumstance. You can record it in your mind as a reason to improve your organization if possible, and try and avoid similar mistakes in the future.
So me feeling guilt is a part of the human construct, because guilt is used to change behavior. So I have to choose to ignore that instinct.
Ignore is maybe a little bit strong. Like, you want to learn from that mistake if you can.
Sure.
But I mean,
fundamentally, a teacher just has, it's too much on their plate to not, like, I feel like getting yelled at when it isn't something that you did wrong, even that's rough. I wanted to say, that's easier for teachers, but I don't think it is either.
You should completely ignore the getting yelled at. Okay. And focus on the, outside of getting yelled at, if you were just soberly informed of the consequences of your error to someone else, how would you feel about that?
Getting pointed out that I had done something wrong?
Yeah, and that someone missed a thing that they shouldn't have missed or something. I don't know, right?
I would tell them I was sorry, and then I'd try to correct it.
But how would you feel about, just without getting yelled at, being notified of the mistake and the consequences of the mistake?
I would feel bad.
Because you have empathy for the person.
Yeah,
though.
And I hate making
your
mistakes.
Empathy is fine. You don't want to quash the consequences of your empathetic feeling towards their bad feeling about the consequences of your mistake. But the guilt that perpetuates itself, and the negative feeling of taking personally of why they're choosing to be mad at me when it's not fair, it doesn't help anything.
Okay. So do I need to do the recap, since you're really the one that talked this time?
Also, we can meditate.
Oh, yeah, I should meditate.
Always. So this is also the meditation podcast.
All right.
Because again, as a super scientist of neuroscience and a yogi, I will say that personally, I have found in a lot of the information that I've read is that mindfulness meditation really helps to interdict the way that guilt and other negative emotions like that perpetuate themselves in your mind and cause you to linger on them well past the point that they're useful for improving your behavior.
Yeah, and see, I want a consequence. When I get yelled at and it's not my fault, it bothers me that they're not in trouble.
Until they do it more than once, there's really no point to, like, if they're never going to yell at you again,
I'm not going to...
What do you need a consequence for?
I would say that once a parent engages in the yelling, I don't want to have any conversation with them that isn't supervised.
But if they never yell again,
teacher.
then what do you...
Yeah.
What does the consequence give you? Justice?
Yes!
But they're not...
Justice, baby!
They're not real people. So if there were to do it again, now you see that there's potentially a need for a consequence because they might be in that group. It's the vast majority are in the first group where they feel hurt and wounded by the unfairness of it all and they're lashing out because of it. Those aren't likely to be repeat offenders, right?
Right.
Because those types of mistakes that hurt that bad don't happen that often. And so they're never going to do it again. And there's no need for them, even if it was unfair to you, to call up and yell at you. I think they are going to do
it again. I think they're going to do it again. I disagree with this. I think that a lot of times when teachers get yelled at, that teacher might not get yelled at again, but like a different teacher will. Like it worked. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like once they've done it once, they feel justified to do it over and over.
If people keep making mistakes that hurt them.
But see, when teachers get yelled at like this, maybe it's because they made a mistake, but I think my situation's pretty similar where there might be one time where it was the teacher mistake, but then they're getting yelled at really because they didn't like what happened. And like, this is the way it is.
That's the other outcome though, where we meet with someone and realign what the expectation ought to have been.
Yes.
That's not just the, oh, well, they let them yell outcome.
Okay. All right, let's recap it. I was not taking notes. I should have taken notes. Can you recap? You weren't taking notes either. Oh, no. We gotta recap it.
What do you think the recap should be?
Well, first off, we're going to not take it personally.
There's no point.
There's no point.
Similar
Pretend
to, like,
that they don't have free will.
The really easy example of not taking it personally is like other cars, right?
People yell at people in cars all the time.
I know, but what do you get out of it? So someone was a jerk in the car, and so what do you do? Like, do you accelerate and like flip them off or try and...
No.
In like
I take it
cut
personally.
Them off? Yeah, but what do you get out of taking it personally?
Nothing.
You get nothing.
I get nothing.
So an injustice happened.
Okay.
Why are you making your life worse because of it?
Okay.
It's just your brain messing with you.
Okay. You're just as bad as I am with recap.
You are smarter than your brain.
Okay.
So yeah, don't take it personally. That's recap 1.
Recap 1, don't take it personally. Recap 2, thing number 2 is get out of the conversation. Either by saying you will look into it, like acknowledge
if you think
their
you made
point,
a mistake,
I'll look into it and let me get back to you.
Yeah.
Then
I see what you're saying. Let me look into it and get back to you, and then promptly do so.
Yeah, and then you need to promptly get your administration aware of the conversation, at the very least, if not have them a part of the mitigation of having additional conversations. And when you have those additional conversations, I'm going to say you're going to get a better outcome in person than over the phone.
Phone is 1,000 times better than email, and in person is at least 10 times better than phone.
Yes. And then in the process of getting your administration involved, you probably should also determine which kind of conversation you just had. Was it that they are frustrated at the consequences of what occurred, in which case you need the administration help